What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another Battlefield 6 gun guide. In today's episode, we're going to be diving deep into the stats of the PW7A2, also known as the MP7, and toward the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing a couple excellent attachment combinations that I like using with this gun. And starting it off, as always, let's have a look at our raw power potential. And our rate of fire is quite fast. It's the second fastest in the SMG category at 947 rounds per minute. And this gun is going to be a 6 to 8 shot kill. It is worth noting there are fewer damage range drop-offs with this compared to the others, but we'll look at that in just a little bit. And when it comes to our time to kill potential, up close in that 6 shot kill range, we're killing in 317 milliseconds. That is not a very good time to kill, especially for an SMG up close. In fact, this is one of the slowest killing full auto guns in the entire game. However, I will say once you get to mid to longer ranges, it actually ends up with quite a solid time to kill potential for an SMG at least. Now, of course, while time to kill is important, it's not everything in Battlefield 6. So let's have a look at that range comparison. And as I said, this gun is a bit of an outlier here. We only have 3 damage ranges, and our maximum damage range extends out to 21.25 meters. This means there is that window between about 9.5 to 21.25 meters where we have a pretty decent time to kill for an SMG in this game. It still doesn't excel, it's still beat out by many others, but it's not bad within that range window at least, unlike right up close between 0 and 9.5 meters, where it's by far the worst. And then beyond that 21.5 meters, this is where this gun actually has quite a solid time to kill for an SMG. So if you are stretching your ranges out a bit, it can excel quite a bit with its power potential. Now, going hand in hand with that, we also have the best muzzle velocity in the SMG category by default at 600 meters per second. That's definitely going to help if you're planning on stretching your ranges out. Whereas for hipfire, it does just have a standard hipfire profile for an SMG. That means it does have a great hipfire spread. And now let's talk recoil. This gun is quite accurate. It kicks basically straight upwards, and you really only start to notice the spread take place after about 7 or 8 shots fired. So as long as you're hitting your initial shots and controlling for that little bit of vertical climb, this gun is very accurate, and I do consider it to be quite easy to control. Probably not the most accurate SMG, but it's certainly up there. I'd say it's a top 3 when it comes to accuracy. So that's yet another stat that once again supports this as more of a mid to long range SMG. Then when it comes to our handling stats, there's really nothing worth mentioning here. It's just standard across the board for an SMG. There's nothing out of the ordinary with this at all. And it's the same story with our weapon mobility. We have the exact same movement speeds as all of the other SMGs out there. And this is where we're just going to get into a brief section on REDSEC. Against 2 armor plates, this gun's going to be an 8 to 15 shot kill, meaning we get a time to kill potential at 545 milliseconds up close, which is a little bit better than average for an SMG. And it's the same story at a distance. We have a slightly better than average time to kill at just under 1 second. And when you factor that in with the fact that we have a solid range profile, good velocity for an SMG, and it's quite accurate, that actually makes this quite a solid choice for an SMG in REDSEC. And with all of that out of the way, we can finally move into a couple excellent attachment combinations. And the first one I've got for you guys is my preferred build. This is the PW7 that's designed for mid to long range, which is where it really excels. So with this, we're using the ROM 1.75 optic, so we've got that little bit of extra zoom compared to a lower zoom like 1x optic that I would typically use on an SMG. For our muzzle, we've got the lightened suppressor. It's going to help a little bit with our recoil while keeping us off the radar. We've got the heavy barrel on here. That's going to help a bit with that spread, and that's going to come into play at longer ranges when I'm holding the trigger down for a bit too long. We've also got the alloy vertical on here just because it doesn't harm any spread stats or anything, so I don't have to worry about that at all, and it just slightly improves recoil. We've also got the 30-round fast mag for a slightly faster reload time, and we're using hollow points on this, so we have a better headshot potential. Now I just need to mix 2 headshots in rather than 3 in order to cut down on the number of shots to kill. And since this gun is accurate enough, that's realistic to see fairly often if you're actively going for those headshots. And as we can see, the recoil is noticeably improved there over the base, and this is just an excellent way to use the PW7 in my opinion. With this, when possible, I just try to make sure I'm not taking fights within that 0 to 9.5 meters. Obviously, that's still going to happen from time to time, but this gun is much more usable beyond 9.5 meters, and it actually really starts to excel beyond 21.25 meters. So again, that's my preferred build. However, I did want to share an alternative if you want to be a bit more aggressive with this. While we can't really improve our time to kill potential, what we can do is use a lower zoom optic. So in this case, I'm using the Mini Flex. I've got the 50 milliwatt blue laser. That helps with hipfire as well as our spread while aiming down sight and strafing or moving in a gunfight. That can be very helpful in close range encounters. We're also using the CQB suppressor, so it's not harming our hipfire spread at all, while still keeping us off the radar. We're once again using the heavy barrel because there's really no reason not to on this. This time we've got the 40 round mag, so I've got a little more spray and pray potential, or the potential to deal with multiple enemies without having to worry about a reload. That's well suited to getting right up close and personal as well. And we're just topping this off with our standard ammo. And with this one, it is also a solid build if you want to be a bit more aggressive. At the end of the day, most of the other SMGs are going to be a better choice if you're going for close quarters combats. But if you're specifically wanting to use this gun and you want to use it in close range, this is at least a good combination to try out. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the PW7 in Battlefield 6. And when it comes to my thoughts on this SMG, when I first started using it, I hated it because I was treating it like I was treating all of the other SMGs. I was really trying to get myself in close range engagements as much as possible, and it just feels like a pea shooter right up close relative to the others. And so I largely wrote this off, and I've barely touched it since the beta build of the game. However, after revisiting it and starting to understand the stats more, and realizing this really doesn't start to excel until you get to mid to somewhat longer ranges, I started to enjoy it at least a little bit more. In saying that though, when we're looking at mid to longer ranges, that's where you're typically better off with something like an assault rifle or carbine. So while it may excel compared to the other SMGs, it doesn't necessarily excel compared to other weapon classes. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that I love the PW7. However, it's not quite as bad as I initially expected, and at least I now see why some people really like using this SMG. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this gun in those comments down below. And if you guys missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.